Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So my name is Varun, General Manager at Applied. Have been with the company since the start of the company. Also a long background in automotive. I've been at suppliers such as Aptiv and Bosch. I'm really excited today to host Sundar, who's Vice President of ADAS and in the Sunnyvale office for Mercedes-Benz. Also has a long career in automotive, was at Bosch for about 12 years, then was in Mercedes office in India, leading that for quite a few years before coming over to Sunnyvale. One disclaimer, all the views that we talk about today will be Sundar's own views. This is not Mercedes official views, unless Sundar decides so. We'll have a pretty broad conversation on ADAS, everything from what is a taxonomy, what does level 2 mean, so hopefully you leave knowing that today. We'll talk about the current state of the systems today that you can buy. We'll talk about what's coming in 2030, and then finally, what are the technical challenges that need to be solved before we get to 2030. So with that, let's jump into the first topic. So Sundar, for everybody, what is level 2? What is level 3, these SA levels? What do they actually mean?
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me here. It's my first year in the Silicon Valley, and this is my first experience in the United States. I worked in Europe for a very long time, worked in Korea, Japan, UK, France, but this is my first year, and I'm totally fascinated about the environment, what we have here. In India, I led very large teams, but when I came in here to Sunnyvale, it was very, very small but highly talented team. And the big difference I find when leading from India and in the USA is the people are very resilient to failures. It's a big open environment for investment and also openness for experimentation and failures. So having said that, now I'm leading automated driving. I am very specific in my words. I don't say autonomous, right? Mercedes believes in automated driving because there are different levels of autonomy are defined by SAE standards. So let me set the context and make it more simple for you. SAE defines standards from level 0 to level 5. And for the common man, we just have to take 3 variables. I think you will be able to remember these variables very well. So 3 variables is one is hands, eyes, and mind, right? So if you talk about level 2 driver assistance systems, we take hands on, eyes on, and mind on, right? It's purely assistance. The driver is in complete control of the situation. He has to do his duties. The system assists him from time to time for convenience and safety. And in a level 3 system, what is called conditional automation, you are allowed to have hands off, eyes off for a certain amount of time. I mean, UNR 157 specifies 10 seconds takeover time where the system is allowed to inform the driver to take over, but mind is always on. You're allowed to do side activities from time to time, but you're always supposed to take over in case the system asks you to take over. Then in level 4 systems, of course, it's hands off, eyes off, mind off, and the potential is that the system is able to handle times till 10 minutes till it asks you to take over. And of course, there are also level 5 where there are no drivers.
So what you're telling me is I could not sleep in a level 3 car. Is that correct?
I think it's legally not allowed to sleep. You need to keep your mind on. But in a level 4 system, if you want to take a short nap because you will have time till 10 minutes for takeover, potentially you can recline yourself, right? But I'm not pretty much sure if you can go into your deep slumber.
Got it. And you're also, just as you were talking earlier, you were mentioning, there are also the local laws, right? So whether you can use your phone or not, that will depend on the local laws.
Oh yes, one is technology, right? As Mercedes, we strongly believe that we have to offer technology that is possible for us to offer. But the local laws and regulations clearly apply. For example, in California and in Nevada, where we offer our level 3 systems, it's still necessary for people not to use the mobile phones. Of course, you can log in into our head unit. We offer a plethora of apps. You can play some video games. You can read your favorite book. You can do some video conferencing, which we will introduce with our new E-Class. But I think as time progresses, if local laws allow, yes, maybe.
Got it. OK. All right. So with that, so everybody hands on, eyes on, minds on for this session. All right, so with that, let's talk about the different state today, right? So for 2024, 25, what's coming in the current models? Let's talk about the hands-on, eyes-on. What are the trends that you're seeing there? What's your view on what's going to come out soon?
So level 2 system has long been there, right? In context of driver assistance, I think the majority of driver assistance systems level 2 is slowly progressing as technology gives us more sensors and more available parameters. What we see today as trends is safety is standard and automation is convenience. And we are seeing more and more consumers tending to take safety features as standard offerings, and OEMs are also starting to offer that. And convenience is based upon the specific markets and also the age group of people. If you talk about functionalities like lane departure warning or automatic emergency brake assist or collision avoidance or blind spot monitoring, we are seeing a big take rate in those functions. And we're also seeing trends that more and more customers are willing to pay for those safety features, whereas features like trailer assist, features like adaptive cruise control, there is still a big apprehension about people wanting to use those features, right? In markets like China, we are seeing a large amount of people are wanting to have those convenient features, but in markets like in Europe, where there's a big age diversity and a Mercedes customers, there is still apprehension about paying for these features. And
Got it. Yeah. So, super interesting aspect of this hands-on, eyes-on is, would people pay for this if it's just highway, or do you think urban is really important for that use case?
I think Mercedes believes in an evolutionary technology. We started with L2. Now we will offer some enhanced driving assistance in the next generations, which will be released in 2025. And we are the first ones to offer an L3 highway, which is internationally certified, right? We can do today 40 miles per hour with a leading vehicle in front on freeways where there is access to high definition maps. And we believe that because we have set the first trends in technology, there will be more OEMs who will embrace it. And we are also seeing trends, and we have seen, of course, in the press, that more and more OEMs are offering L3 systems. Whether L3 urban will be offered in the near future, I think as technology progresses, maybe in the end of the decade, there is definitely clear trends that we will go also in the direction.
Makes sense. So let's talk about this hands-off, eyes-on, the L2 plus or L2 plus plus, as people call it. Do you see a lot of value for that, or do you think that really getting to that L3 is important before, or the hands-off, eyes-off is required before you really unlock that value when customers pay for this?
So AD is an open world problem, right? You only know what you know. We need to learn from data. So we're also seeing trends that a large amount of OEMs are offering L2, L2 plus, right? What is L2? L2 is that you have hands-on, eyes-on, minds-on. And in L2 plus, with integration of driver monitoring cameras, there is a possibility for you to have a hands-off for a slightly larger amount of time, right? We offer 15 seconds in our level 2 systems with the possibility to extend till 45 seconds if you have a driver monitoring camera on. Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing trends that in markets like China, there is a significant interest in consumers wanting to have an L4 feeling, but with an L2 system, right? So China is in that forefront, wanting to offer L2 plus plus features. When I talk about L2 plus plus features, it could mean stop on traffic sign, turning on unprotected, left turn on unprotected signals, stopping at intersections, reacting to construction zones, right? These are all L2 plus plus features. So there is a large amount of interest, and I think for some OEMs and in China, it's also motivating to do that, because if you offer an L2 plus plus system, you are able to harness the kind of data that you want to harness. Because AD is not a requirements-based system, it's a data-driven system. So the more the amount of data that you have, the better it is for you to analyze it, inference it, and be able to develop algorithms that can conquer those use cases.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Last question on this current set of vehicles. Do you think customers are buying this because of the amount of use cases that they see, and how much will they actually use it? Are they buying this because this is more advanced software and their vehicle itself feels more advanced? I'm curious to hear your personal take on this. I'm sure Mercedes has a view, but I'm curious to hear your personal take on this.
I think it's based upon the age group, right? We are seeing people who are aged between 18 and 25, they want to have the pleasure of driving. So there you see that they're constant, if you look at data analytics in the backend, there is a constant motivation to switch off driver assistance systems because they want to enjoy the pleasure of driving. But if you see in the age group between 35 and 45 years old, people really want to have safety as standard. They want to have blind spot monitoring, lane departure monitoring. They want the systems to assist them. And if there is a possibility for door-to-door convenience, wherein you can do a little bit of urban assistance and a lot of highway assistance, people are willing to pay. And we are seeing trends that people are willing to pay as much as $10,000 in case they have a system that can assist them for a longer amount of time.
Got it. All right, so switching gears a little bit, let's talk about ADAS in 2030. What's your guess? What if I buy a Mercedes vehicle at that point, what do you think is standard at that point, which is in every vehicle, which is, let's say regulation or not, something that you would expect in every car when you're buying it?
I think L2 will become more standard in our offerings, right? We also, as I said, we are offering L3 now at 40 miles per hour, 60 kilometers per hour. And in the next couple of years, we want to raise the limit to 95 kilometers per hour in Germany first, right? We want to test that in Germany on the highways. And then towards the end of the decade, we want to raise the bar to 130 kilometers per hour and offer it to all markets where it's where regulation allows us to offer it, right? We offered that first in Germany. In 2017, when Germany released the level 3 regulation rules, it allowed us to certify the systems in Germany first in 2022 and offer it first in Germany. US still does not have a regulation, but we follow strictly the UNR 157 because it makes sense. And in markets like China, still there are no released laws and regulations that allow us to do highway test, to do highway release. And it's also not exempted in China to do level 3 highway testing, so it's very difficult for us also to collect data. But we are tied up with Tencent. The cloud suppliers that we're working with Tencent on how to collect data and how to do perception-based improvements already in China. But the trend indicates that, at least at Mercedes, 2030, we want to hit 130 kilometers per hour and offer it to a large amount of markets.
Got it. So that's exciting. That's on the level 3 side, or the eyes off, hands off on the highway. What about the urban? Do you think every car will have the address to address? You can put an address, and the car will actually let you just watch, monitor, and take you there?
Very, very difficult question.
I hear a strong yes.
You need approval from the communication department to say that. But I think we are doing it in a step-by-step step. We did L2, we're doing L2 plus, and we will offer much higher technology with the next generation of ADAS systems. We are partnered together with NVIDIA, which is a state-of-the-art technology company, which provides us a programmable SoC and over-the-air update possibility. And hopefully with that technology, we can have more offerings also in the context of urbanization's automation.
Got it. More broadly about the industry at that point, do you think, is this something that's really differentiated in customers' mind, or is this a base expectation? Because this has been a topic that has come up before, right? Would ADAS be more commoditized? Is it more like ABS, which is there in every car? What's your view on that? Do you think this is going to be more commodity, or is this going to be very specialized in 2030 timeframe?
I think we have to talk about two things. One is wherever there are regulations. For example, in Europe, you have the regulations, the GSR regulations, right? Wherever there are regulations, it will become more or less a commodity because it is mandatory for all the OEMs to provide it. For example, traffic sign recognition. You have to offer KPI of 90% for all traffic sign recognition, and you also have to provide continuous update of traffic sign recognition as and when the city authorities update traffic sign. We need to offer driver drowsiness detection. This means driver monitoring cameras will become standard. We need to provide attention assist. And in Europe, they also mandating that we need to recognize pedestrians, bicyclists, children on the street, and we have the possibility to either brake or to avert it. So in that context, as more and more regulations come into picture, those features will become more or less a commodity. And wherever the features are optional, not pushed by regulations, it's mainly based on customer demand. But we expect, trends also indicate, we also expect that at least in the premium segment, there will be more than 20% increase in the overall adoption of L3 plus technologies in 2030, and more than 40% in 2035. So I think it's a matter of people getting less anxious about technology. It's a matter of people not getting confused on mode anxiety, right? The biggest challenge we have when we introduce L3 is people didn't know when the system will be in charge and when the system will ask the driver to take over. I think we have to address the mode anxiety issue of when do you have a level 2 system, when do you have a level 3 system, and when does the driver needs to take over. And as soon as we solve these mode anxiety problems and able to intuitively provide the customer with feedback, which mode is active at what point of time, the embracement of technology is only a matter of time.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So last thing on 2030, level 4, or this hands-off, eyes-off, minds-off, as you called it. Do you think that will be available in personal cars at that point? That's my first part. Of course, I'm curious about how you get there, but curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think you can buy it?
We already offer a level 4 autonomous valet parking system in Europe. Right? This is our first take on a level 4 system. There is no driver. You can automatically park the car. You can summon the car. And going towards a level 4 urban, level 4 highway, I think, like I said, we are taking an evolutionary approach. And I think only time will tell if the technology and the regulations are optimum to offer a level 4 system.
Got it. Yeah, but from the way you're talking about it, it does sound like a bit of an evolutionary approach, where over time you think more and more of these capabilities will be available. The reason I ask is a lot of times people say level 4 is going to be completely different. The vehicle has to be done differently. Everything has to be done differently. Do you believe that, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more like incremental software updates?
Yeah. So if you look at a level 2 system, right, majority of the level 2 systems can be mastered today with a mono camera and a good radar system, right? And this is what we are also seeing as trends within the sensor segment. But if you look at a level 3 system, you need to augment it. In addition to cameras and radars, we need to augment it with a high resolution LiDAR. We also need a rear mono-purpose camera to be able to look in the rear. We need to equip it with microphones because you also have the emergency corridor law. If the system is in control, you need to be able to recognize emergency corridor vehicles and give space. You need wetness sensors because you need to also assess the driving conditions on the street to be able to tailor your braking speeds. You need high definition maps, and also you need to have good connectivity. So if it will become a commodity, so I'm not so sure about that. If with all this expensive hardware, if customers are willing to pay for that, but trends indicate that within the premium segment, there is a trend that more and more OEMs are wanting to equip all the hardware onto the cars, that they are able to provide those features at a certain point of time. And even with respect to payment methodologies, right, the marketing situation. We already offer our level 3 systems in the US will be offered on subscription mode with one specific reason, because level 3 systems are officially released in California and Nevada, and if the customer wants then to migrate from California to another state where level 3 is not offered, we do not want to charge our customers for features they would use. That's why we are also going with the subscription model. So I think more and more OEMs, especially in the premium segment, are tending towards adding additional hardware. And I think, and over time, we will also go into subscription mode where people will be able to use those features.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with that, let's switch into the section on technology. So if you think about getting to 2030, what do you think are the biggest things that need to be solved? And we'll go through different topics. So first is on SOCs. Curious to hear your thoughts there.
I mean, SOC is an interesting topic because I'm also dealing that personally in my department in Sunnyvale. With increased levels of automation, it's also common sense that you add more number of sensors, right? Going from 4 fish eye view cameras and 2 front cameras, 4 corner radars, 1 long range radars, right? With level 3 and level 4 automation, the number of cameras is going to increase, the number of radars are going to increase, the number of LiDARs are going to increase. Ultrasonics, of course, is there, right? So the amount of software that is going to go into the car is going to exponentially increase between a level 2 and level 4. The amount of tops, for example, in a generation 4 system where we offered level 2, we had approximately 300 tops. And if you go into a level 4 highway systems, we are looking at 3,000 tops. And if you look at power consumption of these SoCs, we are looking at 2 or 3 watts when we offered our last generation S-Class. And we are looking at 100 watts when you're looking at level 3 and level 4. So SoCs will play a very important part. So few KPIs that you need to consider when you look at SoC. This is a safety relevant ASIL-D standard system, right? So SoCs need to have safety first. Mm-hmm. Second is compute. Third is latency, right? We are going to process all the raw sensors, and we want to have the possibility to do object detection via sensor fusion. This means all the information has to be time synchronously available at the same time at chip level for processing. And of course, with the EVs coming in, we need to look at power consumption. Yeah. And of course, power dissipation. Right?
So when you with all of that context, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of requirements. Do you see OEMs, getting even into SoCs over time? Do you think it's going to become such a distinguishing factor, or do you see enough technology providers who can provide those?
So we have a multi-step strategy in context of semiconductors. We have we divided semiconductors into 3 parts. One is the custom-made SoCs, which you use for infotainment, driving assistance, and so on. Then we have the mid-level microcontrollers, and then we have the standard chips, which is used for USB communication, Bluetooth, and so on. So we have divided into 3 parts. And especially for the custom-made SoCs, we are also driving the standardization of chiplet interconnects. We are the first OEM to join the UCIe consortium. And we think this kind of chiplet mechanism in the context of SoC will have a big impact in context of reducing energy and also reducing latencies, right? And for all of you who want to know what UCIe is a universal chip interconnect express. It's like the PCIe in computers, right? So you use PCIes at a motherboard level where you want 2 chips to talk to each other, and you use UCIe at a substrate level when you want 2 chiplets to talk with each other. So in context of L3 and L4, when you have microseconds and milliseconds to be able to react, you want to have all the sensor information available without any latency. And we see that UCIe is one step that can accelerate the adoption of these technologies.
Got it. So moving a little bit outside just SoC to the broader vehicle platform, I mean, Mercedes definitely talked about MB.OS on the software platform, which is going to be the foundation for this. Do you see this as an important aspect for every OEM to figure out, the underlying vehicle platform, or do you think the ADAS compute could be a little bit of a add-on that could work across different vehicle platforms?
I mean, MB.OS is our fundament, right? It's our base operating system, and because we have MB.OS, we do not have integration problems across different ECUs. We use the same MB.OS across all our ECUs, which makes integration an absolute seamless process, right? You have to consider it like an iOS or like an Android operating system, what you have on your mobile phones. The ease of integration of application software coming in from different vendors or different global integrated teams is much more easier for us to realize in MB.OS.
Got it. The other thing in terms of technology, there's definitely be a lot of investments in the L4 space, a lot of technology that's been built there, including machine learning, neural networks. Do you think all the technology today is there to get to that 2030 vehicle we talked about? or do you still think there requires significant software breakthroughs in order to actually hit that?
I think in the current generation of AD systems, we are moving from a more requirements-based, rule-based algorithms to data-driven algorithms, right? AI will play a big part in our next generation of AD systems, and I think we need to have that kind of compute that can enable us to reach that kind of autonomy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same trend we see at talking to OEMs. I think there's the technology is there. It's a lot about integration. It's a lot about making sure it's working well. Especially when you talk about neural networks, I think the challenge there is also validation, right? So I know this can be a whole conversation in itself. How do you validate neural networks? But I'm curious. Do you feel like there'll be more neural networks or AI-based technology which you can actually validate for homologation purposes, or curious to hear your thoughts?
So also a very tricky question, because in the current generation of AD systems, we have a complete framework of how we want to validate systems. So we have model in the loop, we have software in the loop, hardware in the loop, vehicle in the loop. We have data-driven scenario-based testing, and then we have proving ground testing, and then we have real-world testing. But when it comes to machine learning algorithms, it's not a requirements-based testing, right? Machine learning algorithms provide a different output all the time. So we need to adopt a framework that can give us a kind of reliable results for testing. So there we look up to SOTIF, the Safety of Internet Functions, and ISO 26262, that gives us the framework on how you can adopt those frameworks for automated driving. So one thing, at least what we are trying to do is to move from more requirements-based testing to ODD-based testing, so operational domain design, that gives us parameters on environments, traffic participants, and on all the heuristic scenarios that we need to generate, right? So for machine learning, data-driven approach will be key. So you need to generate more and more data. You need to catalog those scenes. You need to catalog this information and run through regression testings time and again, so that you can prove that even small changes in machine learning algorithms and trainings, that you have KPIs that come out of the scenario-based testing that can help you with releasing of the software or even approaching homologation.
Makes sense. So that's a good segue into the validation topic. I mean, we also see a lot of data being used across OEMs. You're collecting the data, you're validating by figuring out the error conditions, the failure modes. Any fundamental changes that need to be made, in the validation framework as you look forward to 2030? Or do you think it's more of the current infrastructure that needs to be built up?
I think that in today's context, we need to be more agile. We need to have an MLOps framework where you are able to continuously collect data. So this will be big changes in your data recording segmentation, so that we are not only talking about software, but we are also wanting to capture data. And when you want to capture data, you want to capture only that intended data that is useful for you. So data recording, data triggers will play a big role. And curating this data and being able to purge unnecessary data is also going to be key. Segregating the data between a training needs and validation needs will be key. And then to develop those algorithms and take them through the scenario-based testing, and finally putting it on the vehicle to be able to get the results. So we need to have a good infrastructure on MLOps that can enable that. And trends indicate that that companies that are able to have such a kind of state-of-the-art tool chains will become more successful and have more chances towards accelerated introduction of ADE systems.
Makes sense. So switching a little bit more to the personal side, having been in this space now for quite a few years, what's something very surprising about ADAS? There's a lot of folks who are in ADAS in the audience today, also in kind of adjacent AD spaces. Anything that's been surprising for you that you want to share with folks, which is not obvious unless you are deep in the space?
I think key is data, right? As everybody said, data is the new oil. I think oil is finite. Data is the new sun, right? Because you have infinite, right? You can create data from a lot of corner cases. So if you really want to be ahead of the crowd, we need to harness data. We need to have the possibility to put in the hands of our customers algorithms that can generate a lot of data, have a very good chip-to-cloud technology that can harness this data, have a good data analytics platform that can info the data, segregate the data, have scenario mining to be able to create the scene catalog to stay ahead of the crowd, right? But having said all of this, speed is the key, but safety is paramount, right? Safety is not to be prioritized. That is for us our top priority also at Mercedes-Benz, that in a safety critical system, that we do not deprioritize safety in context of speed.
Makes sense. And related to this now, if you, we also have some suppliers, potential partners here in the room as well. Any advice for them? Any thoughts for them? What could they be learning, especially when they think about ADAS?
I mean, for Mercedes, collaboration is very key. We're already collaborating together with NVIDIA, and we're also in joint collaboration together with Luminar. I think Austin also will be there on stage.
Yeah, he'll be here later today.
In a few minutes from now. I think when it comes to collaboration, you need to approach it from both sides. We have to move away from a customer-supplier model in context of collaboration and make attempts on both sides to make it work, to be a little bit more open, more flexible, and to be able to work hand in hand to be able to conquer these challenges. No particular OEM will be able to conquer this kind of automation on their own. We need to have partnership, and Mercedes-Benz is also doing that in context with NVIDIA, Luminar, and also a lot of other companies where we want to strategically partner with to conquer technology and offer automation to the highest levels.
Great. With that, I see we are at time. Thank you so much for the conversation today, Sundar, and thanks for stopping by.